Sometimes love is stranger than what we see in fiction. This story is about Neil, a self-proclaimed film geek and owner of a gumshoe video store, who has always been happy to live a modest life. But when he meets Violet, a real-life crazy being who engages him in far-out misadventures, his boring world gets turned upside down. Will Neil step up and embrace a life full of adventure, or retreat to his comfortable couch? In the opening scene of Watching the Detectives, we are shown a man walking suspiciously down a dark alley. It's as if he is trying to hide from someone, or probably trying to steal. As he tries to put down a video cassette, another man suddenly appears, stopping him in the process. The man is dressed as a 1940s-style detective. He pleads with the man and tries running away, but unfortunately, he is shot. The detective later meets with a woman, who appears to be his accomplice, and he reveals the reason for bringing him down. Guess the reason. He returned the video late, and even forgot to rewind. Well, that's quite a judgment, and it is outrageous, I dare say. The lights come up, revealing that we are watching a commercial for the gumshoe video store. The detective is Neil, the store owner. He is an old detective movie lover. He is premiering the advertisement of a movie to friends at a party at his modest video store. He gets emotional as he begins his speech, but he is interrupted by the advertisement of his competitor, the media giant store, a much bigger company. His audience is so supportive that they even boo the bigger company away, till the television is turned off. Neil is so proud of them, because even though the competition gap is quite pronounced, their support means the world to him. They even get to see a special midnight screening of the 1949 classic called Gorilla. But they don't seem thrilled by the movie one bit. Regardless, they are ever supportive. For the rest of the evening, his friends stick around to support him. His two friends, Jonathan and Lucian, are also really kind while helping him at the store. Despite feeling swell with his friends for celebrating his little win, unfortunately, one major person is not present. That is his girlfriend, Denise, who appeared in the commercial. She did not show up because she thinks the idea is stupid. She doesn't appear to be a supportive girlfriend. His friends can't believe Denise did not show up to support her boyfriend's business when everyone else is present. He feels bad about it and decides to lock himself in his office. The next day, Neil meets Denise at a restaurant. But before he goes to her table, he gets a waiter to spill a glass of water on her, just to watch her overreact. Isn't it weird? She is not amused by the prank, and believes he needs to get his life together instead of just watching movies, playing games, and acting immaturely. Their relationship is not fun, but let's wait for Neil's reaction, because he seems to have something up his sleeve, especially since she missed out on his big day the previous night. Guess what? He casually breaks up with her, letting her know the reason is because she is not supportive. Denise does not expect the statement from him, but she doesn't bother to talk things out. It appears both of them are fed up with the relationship, because she had come to advise him on getting his life together. He even referenced her being not enough like Catherine Ross and Butch Cassidy, and the Sundance Kid, who is a supportive partner and doesn't make her boyfriend feel stupid. But she came prepared and lets him know she doesn't want to be with someone who runs a small business that is barely making any money. He is shocked by this revelation, so she walks out on him angrily, and that is her way of calling it quits. Back at the store, Neil complains about his financial issues to his friend and employee Jonathan. While they are watching a film scene, an attractive lady called Violet makes her entrance, capturing his attention. She is there to rent a movie for her sick friend, and even refers to his video store as a shithole. He offers to help her out several times, but she declines deliberately. However, Violet has no means of identification or credit card for her rental deposit, so she persuades him to take $50 cash in exchange for the movie. He puts it in an envelope under his antique cash register. It appears Violet is a lot for Neil to handle. At his house, Neil decides to show us his mundane side, changing his mind about going out to play baseball, and just watching it while lying on his couch. It shows he likes his comfort zone. The next day, Violet returns to the movie, and she does something surprising. She secretly steals back the deposit from where he kept it, while he and his friends argue about movies. After the deed, he later sees her and attends to her. When he is about to take the money she deposited and give her the balance, he can't find it. He asks his friends, but no one knows where it is. Of course no one would know, since Violet has stolen it, while she feigns ignorance. Neil concludes that he lost it, and feels indebted to her. Still feigning ignorance, she suggests he takes her out for a dinner worth $50. They decide to meet by 8 p.m. His friends are perplexed. Is this the beginning of adventures for him? Because she is a wild one. Stay with me, and we will get to find out. In the next scene, Neil gets ready for his date, and he makes sure he looks neat and smells good, hoping it will not just be for a night. It appears he is ready for an adventure. On the date, Violet arrives first and pretends that she has already gotten drunk. When Neil does not try to take advantage of the situation, she reveals that it is a joke. She seems to perfectly match his energy and silliness. They order their food, and something interesting happens. Violet brings out a big calculator to calculate her bill, because she does not want to overspend. Perplexed, he realizes he is just getting to know her, and he finds her mysterious. Maybe even too much for him to handle. Then they proceed with dinner. At dinner, he explains how frustrated he is by the media giant store, his competitor down the road. He believes that as they are closer, the competition is fiercer. However, at her insistence, they embark on a silly adventure. They go to the store and hide in a closet until the employees lock up for the night. Then they switch a bunch of DVDs into the wrong cases and knock over some displays, while fleeing from the cops. Well, even though her ways are weird, she still proves more supportive of his business than his ex-girlfriend. They decide to hide behind a fence till it is safe. Afterward, he wants to take her home, but she declines because she does not want him to know where her house is. Neil and Violet say their goodnights, and he even kisses her through a hole in the fence. The next day, Neil discusses his date with his friend Jonathan while they play basketball. He finds her weird and mysterious. Even his friend thinks she has a psychological issue, because of what Neil explains to him. He suggests she might be bipolar, or even have schizophrenia, but Neil thinks she isn't that kind of crazy. When his friend wants to know if he would go out with her again, he is surprised to know that he doesn't know where her house is, neither does he know her last name. Surprisingly, Violet shows up after Jonathan leaves to attend to a customer. She tries to play basketball with Neil, but she is not good at it and almost damages the fence of Neil's store. This act makes Neil and his friends perplexed at her weirdness. Later, Violet and Neil wonder about what is happening at the media giant store, especially since their escapades the night before. So they decide to spy. They have gotten to know of their antics because they see an employee talking to a police officer. Unfortunately, they do not get any information. Neil gets bored of spying, and he suggests they see a movie. However, Violet insists they stay, because it is her thing. He has no choice but to oblige her. After spying, they take a walk and they seem to get along well. She doesn't even give him information on where she's schooled. He wishes to know where she resides, but she refuses to give out the information to him. However, she decides to give him her phone number, and she writes it on paper, telling him not to misplace it. Later, he discusses the store with his friends. They want to know what he will do when business is no longer booming. But he believes that won't happen until years later. They suggest different ideas on what he can do with his store, including suggesting he goes back to school or opens a gambling den. While still on that, 2 police detectives drop by Gumshoe Video to question Neil. He meets with them in his office, and they question him about the media giant break-in. As soon as he gets to know their intent, he starts trembling. They ask about his accomplice in the crime, which happens to be Violet. They want to know her whereabouts, and they even threaten to do something bad to him if he does not confess. But he refuses to give in. Once they have completely scared him, Violet appears at the office door. Guess what? She and the cops begin to laugh hysterically at the ruse. She reveals that they are her friends. Neil is perplexed upon realizing that it was a prank. This girl has proven to be on another level of crazy. The real question is, how long will he be able to tolerate her? We'll find out. After she explains to him that it was a prank, she sees the alleged cops off, pecks him, and leaves for her house. A confused Neil decides to secretly trail Violet back to her house. It seems it's a two-can-play-this-game kind of situation. He asks Jonathan and Lucian to watch his store. On the way, he bumps into his married friends arguing about their baby. They decide to follow him to trail her while he helps them settle their dispute. They almost get caught by Violet, who thinks that she is being followed. Afterward, his friends leave him to continue with his detective work. He sees Violet entering a house and stealthily sneaks around to the window side. Surprisingly, he sees her inside feeding cats. To get a better view, he goes to another window, and upon raising his head, he sees Violet, who startles him. He falls, and she laughs at him. She appears to know he had been tailing her, and she calls him a lousy spy. She lets him know that it's not her house. Violet takes him to her house later that day. She confesses that she sneaks into her neighbor's house to make sure the cats are fed. Surprisingly, Violet doesn't have a television set, which makes Neil think she sneaks in there to watch television as well. They end up having a romantic time together, and eventually end up in bed, making love. This is a new beginning for Neil, but is he ready to leave his comfort zone for this adventurous lady? The following morning, they go for a romantic swim. But they also sneak in and sneak out without being noticed afterward. Violet seems to be rubbing off on Neil well, and he appears to be enjoying the adventures. Sometime later, Neil is leaving to meet Violet at the park when he runs into his friends, who beg to come along and meet his new girlfriend. Knowing how tricky Violet can be, Neil gets nervous about this meeting. Upon meeting her, they're thrilled, and she even gets along with their baby. Violet decides to show them how adventurous she can be. She takes them to a picnic spot and serves them food from a basket. All the while, Neil's heart is terribly pounding because he is convinced this is one of her crazy attributes. He knows her too well to believe she made the food and prepared for the picnic. Meanwhile, Neil's friends are thrilled with Violet's hospitality. Unknown to them, she is feeding them another couple's picnic food. Soon his fears are proven to be true, because Violet secretly reveals that the food belongs to someone else. Neil, being fully aware of what she is capable of, refuses to eat. Meanwhile, the owners of the food have seen them from afar and are approaching. Knowing things are about to get messy, Violet heads out while kissing Neil. She claims she wants to go and feed the ducks. Neil's friends have already fallen in love with her. They believe she is pretty, as well as a keeper. They have no idea of the situation that will soon unfold before their very eyes. When the couple that owns the food gets there, they soon realize the situation on the ground. Angrily, the couple demands an explanation. We do not get to see the end result, but it's apparent that it would be an embarrassing situation, and they will have to profusely apologize or pay for the food. At the store, his friends discuss the game that will be coming up later that night. This is when he remembers that he has a date with Violet at her place. But he isn't thrilled with the clash in the game's timing, because Violet doesn't have a TV where he can watch the game. He lets them know she doesn't have a television because she prefers acting things out herself. Nevertheless, he has to go see Violet. They are baffled at his new changes and see him as a different person. At Violet's place, he cannot help but think about the game. He continually peeps out through her window to check if her neighbor, the cat owner, is around so they can sneak in. They eventually do. Neil enjoys watching the basketball game, but Violet is bored because it is all quiet and she has to sit to watch the game. She believes that they can make things more fun by going to play basketball than sitting around watching others play it. But he insists they watch the match because he does not want to try weird things. She leaves him angrily to enjoy his game. Afterward, they walk through the cemetery on their way home. She finds their path interesting, but he doesn't. She explains to him that she has a condition called borephobia, which makes her allergic to being bored. He wishes to understand how she feels and let her know how hard he is trying to make them work. She sees this as an opportunity to make her weird request known. Shockingly, she suggests they go for hang gliding. He makes her understand that he is trying to keep up with her kind of lifestyle, but wishes she could tone her approach down just a little bit to make it less weird. So, he declines on that condition. Violet feels hurt and refuses to stay over at his place for the night, although she tries to hide the fact that she is hurt. The next day, he calls her, but she does not pick up. Later, he goes to see a band play at Jonathan's bar and spies her flirting with a musician. Unknown to him, she wants him to see her. Her plan works because he leaves the bar jealous and angry. In the next scene, jealous Neil decides to stage a rock guitar scene to get her attention. This is because he thinks she is into musicians. His plan worked because she enjoys it and even strips while he is performing. This is kind of weird, and she wishes their relationship can continue to be that way. They end up in bed again, making love. Afterward, she reveals that she just staged the club scene to get his attention. She later tells him all about all the musicians she has dated. The first musician jumped off the cliff after his achievement, and the other one is a bald musician who stalks her from city to city. Neil gets paranoid after their discussion. The next day, a paranoid Neil imagines that every bald white guy he sees is the stalker. Upon seeing two bald white guys outside his house, he gets scared and rushes inside. At his store, one of his customers is a bald white guy, and he acts harshly toward him. His friend believes that they will not keep any customers if he keeps chasing them away. Later at the cinema, he sees another bald white guy, and his reaction toward him makes his friend get worried. He explains to his friend that Violet is playing tricks on his mind, and that is affecting him. When will he be able to get over being paranoid? He visits Violet and knocks at her door. He decides to let himself in, since it is not locked. He sees Violet tied to a chair. While he tries to untie her, a bald giant approaches. He gets scared, throws his jacket at him, and runs for the restroom. How will he be able to rescue the love of his life from this danger? It appears his fear of bald guys is confirmed. They are indeed dangerous. He thinks of how to save her, and rushes out with the spray bottle he finds in the toilet. Guess what? He discovers it is a stage scene. He sees her with the bald giant, who happens to be her friend Denise. She is trying to treat the wound he sustained from the jacket he threw at him. They discover a videotape is in his jacket, and that is what caused the cut on Dennis's head. She apologizes to her friend. Neil looks frustrated by Violet's tomfoolery, and also discovers she is spying on him to know the kind of shows he watches, so she can act them out. Unable to take any more of her dangerous pranks, Neil decides to break up with her. She is perplexed and wishes he would change his mind, because she is in love with him. But unfortunately, he does not reconsider. At Neil's store, his friends argue while they watch a movie, but he is heartbroken, so he does not join in. He decides to leave while they attend to the customers. In the next scene, Neil runs into his ex-girlfriend Denise and her new boyfriend. The new boyfriend has heard about his pranks on Denise and feels they were silly. Suddenly, he realizes he treated Denise the same way Violet has treated him. On getting home, he imagines seeing Violet in his wardrobe, but discovers it is a statue, and he angrily pushes it away when he finds out it is not her. He misses Violet and the excitement she created in his life. His old boring life is not enough for him anymore. Everything with his friends in the store is now boring, and his friend does not seem to understand him. At the store, while dressed like a cowboy, he receives a call from a stranger, but unknown to him, it is Violet. But because it does not sound like her voice, he declines. She then calls back to identify herself. He's thrilled to hear from her, but once again, she sounds like she needs saving. She let him know she needs his help at her workplace. This time, Neil is willing to help her, so he heads out to meet her and follows the instructions she gives him. She even insists he keeps the cowboy outfit on. Well, this is sounding suspicious. When he gets to the casino, the man that opens the door gets scared upon sighting the gun in his outfit. Unknown to Neil, she has tricked him yet again, and the reason she insisted he wore the cowboy outfit is because of the gun attached to it. The actual reason he is there is for him to steal money from her job. She winks at him, while urging the guy to give Neil the money so they don't get shot. Seeing the situation, Neil gets into character and acts like he is there to rob them. He takes their money, but while at it, another guy joins them. He orders him to stay beside the other guy, while he peeps down into the casino through the window. Unfortunately, while he's peeping, he gets carried away, and one of the guys shoots at him. Fortunately, he misses him, and this is when Neil realizes that this has gotten out of hand. He manages to escape. The next morning, Violet visits him at his house. Neil is thrilled by the crime he got to act out the previous night, expecting the same reaction from Violet. Unfortunately, Violet does not share his enthusiasm. Although her plan was crazy, it did not include him getting shot at, plus all the other dangerous kinds of stuff he experienced. Instead, she just takes the money and gives him his share, letting him know that he was just a pawn. He is a nice guy, but she believes she is a terrible person. This gets him heartbroken. He thinks they're getting back together because he is finally catching up to her level of craziness. The breakup gets him dysfunctional, and this affects every sphere of his life. He literally cries everywhere. At his store and the baseball match with his friends, he cries all through because of the heartbreak. In the next scene, while in his bathtub, he is thinking about her and buries himself underneath the water. Suddenly, he gets a surprise visit from Violet. She has returned to let him know that the supposed breakup was a joke. Quite typical of her. Neil is initially enraged, but Violet convinces him that his life is more interesting and adventurous with her in it. She assures him that there will not be another breakup. They will only get to go on different thrilling adventures. They make up, and Violet shows him the new car she bought from their robbery money. They drive off to Graceland in the new car happily. They perfectly complement themselves in their crazy lifestyle, and only God knows what their next adventure will be.